Hi guys, today our topic is going to be the tasks and functions in System Verilog. So I have already mentioned before, you have to be aware of what are tasks and functions and what are difference between them from the Verilog itself, so that you'll come to know what are the extra features that have been added to these tasks and functions in System Verilog. Okay, so I'll be disclosing that now, and please make sure that you are already aware of these tasks and functions from Verilog itself. So the Verilog has a static and automatic tasks and functions. So static tasks and the functions share the same storage space for all calls to the tasks or functions with a module instance. Automatic tasks and functions allocate unique stack storage for each instance. So Verilog is a module based, right? So which is a static one. So during a stat in a static environment, whenever you call a function or a task, it is going to create only one object. I mean one storage space for that. And whenever you call again, so whenever you call the task or function again and again, so the same storage will be updated with the new values, but it is not going to create any new storage with the new elements. Okay, but coming to the automatic, it is vice versa. So it is whenever you are going to call a function or a task, it is going to create a new memory for that, and it is going to store it. Okay, so System Verilog adds the ability to declare automatic variables within the static tasks and functions, and static variables within automatic tasks and functions. So coming to the add zone in SV, function output and in ports are applicable in SV, and void functions and the multiple statements in a task or a function without requiring a begin end or a fork join block. So in Verilog, whenever we write a function or a task, we used to write it in a begin end, which is a procedural block. But coming to SV, you don't need to provide any begin end inside a function or a task, because it there as soon as when you declare a task or a function, they're already in procedural, so you don't need to declare it again. And returning from a task or a function before reaching the end of the task or a function, and passing arguments by reference instead of by value, passing argument values by name instead of by position, and default argument values, and importing and exporting functions through the direct programming interface. So this importing and exporting of functions are not included in this lecture, as these are not so important in your beginning of your career. So if it is required, I'll be making another video on this. Okay, so importing and exporting of functions and subroutines are being included in the direct programming interface, the DPI, but not in the normal coding. Coming to a task, a Verilog task declaration either has the formal arguments in the parentheses or in declarations and directions. So it can either have in the argument itself, or in the argument list itself, or it can have as a declarations inside or outside the parentheses. So for example, I have given below task. We have a my task 1, which has an output into variable x and input logic y, and you have another one where my task 2 output x input y and int x and the logic y. So you can, in both ways, you can declare all the arguments, input on and output arguments. With System Verilog, there is a default direction of input. If no direction has been specified, once a direction is given, subsequent formal default to a same direction. So for example, you have provided some arguments to the function or a task, but you haven't provided any direction, so the default one will be the input. And for example, you have provided only input and you have not provided any other direction, so all other variables that you declare inside the parenthesis will be of input type. Okay, for example, you have my task 3 ab comma output logic. So here a and b are of input type, and and the u and v will be of output type. Okay, since you haven't provided any direction to a and b, before a and b they will be by default an input, and since you have provided output before u and v declaring, so they will be of output type. So each formal argument also has a data type which can be explicitly declared or can inherit a default type. The task argument default type in System Verilog is logic. Okay, the task argument default type in system Verilog is logic, but in function that would be a that would be of input. So the system Verilog allows an array to be specified as a formal argument to a task. Verilog allows tasks to be declared as automatic, so that all formal arguments and local variables are started in on the stack. System Verilog extends this capability by allowing specific formal arguments and local variables to be declared as automatic within a static task, or by declaring specific formal arguments and local variables as static within an automatic task. And within system Verilog, multiple statements can be written between the task declaration and the end task, which means that the begin end can be omitted, as we discussed before. And if begin end is omitted, statements are executed sequentially, the same as if we are enclosed in a begin end group. It shall also be illegal to have no statements at all. Okay, so it is also legal to have no statements inside a task or a function, and you can even provide a begin end as well. There is of no issue, but they have been removed in system Verilog. In Verilog, a task exits when the end task is reached, while in system Verilog, the return statement can be used to exit the task before the end task keyword. So you can provide the return type for the task. Okay, a Verilog function. So coming to the functions now, a Verilog function declaration either has the formal arguments in parentheses or in declarations in directions. So you have a function, for example, function logic 15 down to 0, and you have my function 1, which is of int x and int y, and you have another function logic 15 down to 0, my func 2, and input x and input y. And so coming to the system Verilog extends Verilog functions to allow the same formal arguments as tasks. Function declarations default to the formal direction input if no direction has been specified. Once a direction is given, subsequent formals default to the same direction. Okay, for example, you have a function of 16-bit myfunc3. You have integer a, integer b, and output logic u and v. So each formal arguments has a data type which can be explicitly declared or can inherit a default type. The default type in system Verilog is a logic, which is compatible with Verilog. System Verilog also allows an array to be specified as a formal argument to a function. So you can also specify an array as an argument to a function. Okay, so for example, it's given below here. So it shall be illegal to call a function with output, inout, or a reference arguments in an event expression, in an expression within a procedural continuous assignment, or in an expression that is not within a procedural statement. However, a constant ref function argument shall be legal in this context. Okay, so coming to the reference and constant reference is nothing but we are going to declare a variable inside a function or a task with reference to the variables that are present inside the class where these subroutines have been declared. And coming to the constant ref is going to make sure that during any calculations of CDC or CRC, there are no changes to be done with the reference variables where you declare them as a const ref. So the system Verilog allows multiple statements to be written between the function header and the end function, which means that the begin end can be omitted. If the begin end is omitted, statements are executed sequentially as if they were enclosed in a begin end group. It is also legal to have no statements at all, in which case the function returns the current value of the implicit variable that has the same name as a function. So the return values and the void functions. In Verilog, functions must return some value. The return value is specified by the assigning a value to the name of the function. So for example, you have a function which is 16-bit myfunc1. You have an input 8-bit x and y, and myfunc is equal to x into y minus 1. So the return value is assigned to function name. Okay, and the system Verilog allows functions to be declared as type void, which do not have a return value. Void is nothing but an empty return value. For non-void functions, a value can be written by assigning a function name to a value, as in Verilog, or by using return with a value. The return statement shall override any value assigned to the function name. When the return statement is used, non-void functions must specify an expression with the return. whatever may be the return value. So for example, you have a function 16-bit myfunc2, and you have two inputs, 8-bit inputs x and y, return where the return value can be x into y minus 1. The return value is specified using the return statement. Okay, you can even provide the return value in this way. In System Verilog, a function return can be a structure or union as well. In this case, a hierarchical name used inside the function and beginning with the function name is interpreted as a member of the return value. If the function name is used outside the function, the name indicates the scope of the whole function. If the function name is used within a hierarchical name, it also indicates the scope of the whole function. So b plus myfunc1 is equal to a, where you're providing some, you're calling here, you're calling the function here with some arguments. So calling my function as defined above as an expression. So you're asking to print the a, you're calling the print statement, and you have another function here, a void function myPrint, which accepts an input argument a of integer type. So discarding function return values. System Verilog provides two means for passing arguments to functions and tasks. They are by value and pass by reference. Pass by value and pass by reference. So the arguments can also be passed by name as well as by position. Task and function arguments can also be given default values, allowing the call to the task or functions or not pass to pass the arguments. So coming to pass by value. Pass by value is the default mechanism for passing arguments to the subroutines, a task or a function. It is also the only one provided by the Verilog. This argument passing mechanism works by copying each argument into a subroutine area. If the subroutine is automatic, then the subroutine retains a local copy of the argument in its stack. If the arguments are changed within the subroutine, the changes are not visible outside the subroutine. Okay, so when the arguments are legal, it can be undesirable to copy the arguments. Also, programs sometimes need to share a common piece of data that is not declared global. So for example, you have a calling the function below copies 1000 bytes each time the call is made. So you have a CRC function which accepts a byte, which accepts a packet of byte type 1000 down to 1, and in a for loop int j equal to 1 and j less than or equal to 1000, and you are incrementing the j, and you are calculating the CRC here, CRC exclusive or the packet in function. So where you're going to call the function is going to copy the 1000 bytes each time the call is made. Okay, so pass by reference. Arguments passed by reference are not copied into the subroutine area. Rather, a reference to the original argument is passed to the subroutine. The subroutine can then access the argument's data via the reference. Arguments passed by reference must be matched with the equivalent data types. No casting shall be permitted. To indicate argument passing by reference, the argument declaration is preceded by the reference keyword. The general syntax is the subroutine ref type argument. Okay, for example, so the example above can be written as which we have seen in the CRC function. The same function can be written as, so function in CRC, you have a reference keyword byte packet 1000 onto 1, and you're doing the same for loop. You're looping to the for loop and you're calculating the CRC. So note that in the above example, no change other than the addition of the ref keyword is needed. The compiler knows that packet is now addressed via a reference, but users do not need to make these references explicit either in the callee or at the point of the call. Okay, so this is so that is the call to either version of the CRC function remains the same. So this is another example for pass by value or pass by reference, which is of same call is made when the same call is made to that. So when the argument is passed by reference, both the caller and the subroutine share the same representation of the argument. So any changes made to the argument either within the caller or subroutine shall be visible to each other. The semantics of assignments to variables passed by reference is that changes are seen outside the subroutine immediately. Only variables, not net type of variables, are not included in this, which can be passed by the reference. So arguments passed by reference must watch exactly, no promotion and conversion, or the auto casting is possible when passing the arguments by reference. And in particular, the array arguments must match their may match their type and all dimensions exactly, and the fixed size arrays cannot be mixed with the dynamic arrays, and the vice versa. So this point we have been discussed in the arrays itself when they have been passing as arguments to the function or a task. So passing an argument by reference is a unique argument passing qualifier, and they different from input output or input combination. Combining the ref with any other directional qualifier shall be illegal. So for example, you have a task, incrementing task, where you have a reference input integer type a, which is an incorrect. Ref cannot be a qualified one because you have already provided an input here, and you are again providing it as a reference. A reference argument is similar to an inert argument, except that an inert argument is copied twice. Once from the actual into the argument when the subroutine is called, and once from the argument into the actual when the subroutine returns. So passing object handles are no exception and have similar semantics when passed as reference or inert arguments. Thus, a reference of an object handle allows changes to the object handle in addition to the modification of the contents of the object. So to protect the arguments passed by reference from being modified by a subroutine, the constant qualifier can be used together with the ref to indicate that argument, although passed by reference, is a read-only variable. So which have been told before in the previous slides, that why are we going to use the constant ref to not change, not the whatever the calculations we done, or whatever the reference values are there, that they should not be changed it at any part of the simulation. So that's why we are going to use the constant qualifier here. So the example is given below. We have a task show, which where we have the argument as a constant ref byte data, and we have a for loop where which is going to display all the data of the array. So data can be read out but not written, and you are ending the task. When the formal argument is declared as a constant ref, the subroutine cannot alter the variable, and an attempt to do so shall generate a compiler error. Okay, whenever there is an attempt to change the argument, there will be issued a compilation error. Okay, so coming to default argument values, to handle common cases or allow for unused arguments, system verilog allows a subroutine declaration to specify a default value for each singular argument. So for example, you have a syntax here. You have a subroutine that you are providing the direction, the data type, and you are providing the argument as a default value somewhat. And the optional direction can be either input, inert, or ref, where the output ports cannot specify the defaults. The default value is an expression. The expression is evaluated in the scope of the caller each time the subroutine is being called. The elements of the expression must be visible at the scope of the subroutine, and if used, at the scope of the caller. If the default value is not used, the expression is not evaluated and need not be visible at the scope of the caller. Okay, so when the subroutine is called, arguments with default values can be omitted from the call, and the compiler shall insert their corresponding values unspecified, which may be empty. Arguments can be used as placeholders for default arguments, and allowing the use of non-consecutive default arguments. If an unspecified argument is used for an argument that does not have a default value, a compiler error will be issued at this point of time as well. So for example, you have a task read where you are accepting int j equal to 0 and int k and int data is equal to 1. So here the task read with the two default arguments j and data. The task can be called using various default arguments. Okay, so for example, you have a read. You're calling it by not providing the first argument but only the second argument, which is also equivalent to the read 051. And you have another one, read 2, 5, where you are providing only the first two arguments but not the third one, and you are providing only the second argument here. And in the fourth one, you are providing only the last two arguments. In the fifth one, you are providing all the three arguments, and in sixth one, you are just reading without providing any arguments, and this is going to be an error, and k has no default value. Okay, so all the defaults value will be taken here as if you are not going to provide any argument to that. And since the k, whatever if you see the function, since the k is k has no default value, you are going to get an error here. So argument passing by a name. System Verilog allows arguments to tasks and functions to be passed by name as well as by position. This allows specifying non-consecutive default arguments and easily specifying the arguments to be passed at the call. So for example, you have a int function fun, and where it is accepting some arguments like int j equal to n and string s equal to no. Okay, so which can be as follows. So when you see the first one, you're providing the two arguments. One is 2 and the second one is s, and the second one you are just providing the string alone, not the integer variable. In the third one, you're all even you here itself you're providing the second argument only, and coming to the fourth one you're providing only the first argument. So in the same way, all we are going to call the function or a task in all these different kind of manner, and whenever you don't provide any default arguments, that is going to take some default values itself, and when the variable doesn't have any default value, that is going to issue an error. Okay, so if the arguments have default values, they are treated like parameters to module instances. If the arguments do not have a default value, then they must be given, or or the compiler shall issue an error. So if both position and named arguments are specified in a single subroutine call, then all the position arguments must come before the named arguments. So for example, you have yes, you're providing the string, and then you are providing the integer variable. So here you are misplacing all the arguments when you're calling the function, so which is illegal. You have to always provide them in an order. So optional argument list. When a task or a function specifies no arguments, the empty parenthesis following the task or a function name shall be optional. So this is also true for tasks or a function that require arguments when all the arguments have a default specified. Okay, so this ends our lecture on the tasks and functions in System Verilog. So a few people are following my channel, and they have been approaching me regarding uh, how to get into VLSI domain, or if they are already into VLSI domain, and how to improve their skills and all. So I'm really thankful for that, and I thank you people for following my channel and my videos. So uh, I have been planning a call this weekend with with a backend engineer, since I'm not into backend, and I'm not sure about what are the subjects or what are the tools, or how to proceed, and what is the boom of backend in coming future. So I have planned with one of my colleague who is working in backend itself. So I have planned a call with him, so that he'll be letting those people know how to start when if they wanted to get into backend, whether to take a course, or whether they can improve on their own itself. What are the subjects they need to learn, and uh, how should they start first of all. Okay, if they are in third year, then it is well and good, they have much more time to get into the job, so they can even learn on themselves. If they are into final year now, so how should they approach to get into VLSI domain in backend or front end. Okay, yeah, the same thing, guys. If you have any doubts or any queries, you can directly ping me on my number, where I have been providing it my first lecture, and I'll be providing in a description as well. Okay, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. So like, comment and share to my subscribe to my channel. Thank you.